Everyone ready for what's next? They're the micro-credentials team, but please help me give a macro welcome to the FIU Office of Micro-Credentials.
Hi all, welcome. I know you've been here most of the day. Some of you just joined, so thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be discussing micro-credentials, which we refer to as badges for success in the 21st century. I'm Gali Lefkowitz, but first, let me say that Eliana Guzman, our Associate Director, should have been here today, but unfortunately is not feeling well, so say a little prayer for her, and we'll miss her today, but we got it covered, right?
Yeah, we're good.
So I'm Gali Lefkowitz. I work for the Office of Micro-Credentials as the Manager of Instructional Design. I have a background in instructional design starting at FIU Online, who taught me everything I know, and I've brought it along to micro-credentials to help improve the process, hopefully, and really put out some quality credentials for us. My background is also in advising, and I do teach in multiple departments across the university. I know many of you here through working with you, so I'm so happy you're here to support us. And
Awesome.
This is Beatriz.
Hello, can everybody hear me? Yeah, awesome. So I'm Beatriz Gonzalez. I am manager here at the Office of Micro-Credentials, and I'm super excited to talk to you all about this and this new innovative, fields within higher education.
We have several items that we're going to cover today, but in general, we're going to be, first of all, talking about what micro-credentials are. We're going to introduce you to the Office of Micro-Credentials, talk a little bit about what types of micro-credentials we can offer, we can support you in offering, and a little bit more about the process, the development, and what's next, what our plans are for the future. So let's get started.
Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get started. So a little bit about our office here at FIU. We really try to foster an ecosystem where FIU students, alumni, employers can really enhance their skills for the 21st century workforce. We're actually a relatively new office. We were actually founded in 2019 to kind of support this university initiative of micro-credentials at FIU. Our why always will remain the same, is to focus on learners. So not just students, right? Whether you're a seasoned professional or undergrad student at FIU, we want to ensure that we encompass all the learners in the field. We want to help learners enhance and validate their skills, and our framework is developed through our policy that you can have access to our website towards the end of our presentation. And here you can actually see a little graph, right? So we do learners, alumni, community members, professionals, etc. We really focus on all the learners in our community. Alrighty, so what are micro-credentials? They're essentially a digital representation that focuses on a specific skill or competencies that you can get through your coursework, co-curricular experiences, or continuing education experiences as well. Micro-credential documents student learning, it documents faculty and staff professional development, and expands on continuing education options. It's also meant to be supplemental design to provide evidence that learners are ready for the 21st century workforce that kind of aligns with our FIU 2025 Horizon plan. You actually see an image of an actual micro-credential here on the screen. This is actually a very popular one. It's thinking and communicating with data. So all of our badges live on Credly, which is a leading badging platform. So learners create a profile, and they can log into their dashboard and see all the micro-credentials that they've earned. They can click on the micro-credential. They'll see a description of the micro-credential and an earning criteria, meaning what they did to obtain this micro-credential. They can also share that with employers. There's a public profile link, so if you're applying for a job or an internship, you can actually share that with employers like, hey, these are actually the skills I say I have, and here's actual evidence. They can log, the instructor or whoever wants to look at them can look at it, and they'll see a description and the minimum criteria, so what they had to do to obtain the micro-credential. And now a little bit about our policy. So every micro-credential has to have these policies, right? There are 5 components that you see here, and every micro-credential that's being developed has to abide by these 5. It needs to be competency-based, from title to the body of the micro-credential. So a good way that we always think about it is, if I'm an employer and I'm reading the title of a micro-credential, I should know exactly what skills the learner obtained, right? Like the one we just saw on our previous slide, thinking and communicating with data. It is very clear what those skills are. It should also be rigorous, right? We're not just going to walk out of this conference or go to a workshop and be like, okay, great, got my micro-credential. needs to be a little bit more rigorous than that, right? You need to have student learning outcomes, artifacts, rubrics, etc. It should also meet industry and post-graduation needs, and it should also be stackable. What do we reference as stackable? So let's say you're building a micro-credential on fundamentals of public speaking, right? You can do intermediate public speaking. You can do advanced public speaking. Continue to close that gap and to identify what else is needed to support our learners to be ready for that 21st century workforce. And it should be portable, right? That actually community partners and industry partners actually see these skills as something that is needed for the workforce. And now a little bit about the benefits to learners. So what do I get once I get a micro-credential, right? What's it in for me? So a little bit is not only are they academically prepared, but they're also ready for post-graduation success. As I mentioned, it builds that gap between theory and practice, what they're learning in the classroom and what is actually needed in the field. And also, they can market themselves, right? They can add it to digital resumes. They can share it on LinkedIn profiles, on Twitter, put it in their email signature, share it with employers. As we mentioned, there's a public profile link through Credly. They can share with any potential employers to provide evidence that they actually have the skills they say they do have. And of course, it builds affinity to our university, as every micro-credential does have our FIU represented as a high-valued institution giving this micro-credential. And of course, it aligns with our 2025 Horizon plan to ensure that they're ready for the workforce. And now benefits to developers, right? If you're developing one, what do I get, right? So faculty and staff at FIU have full access to develop a micro-credential that has a specific competency or skill. So you, as subject matter expert, identify what that is. We don't tell you what it is, you identify what that is. As long as it meets our policies, we're good to go. There's no faculty or Senate approval needed. So if you're thinking about an academic course, you may have to go through faculty and Senate. However, for micro-credentials, you do not. There is an approval process, but faculty and Senate is not required. It can also be seen as a professional development for faculty and staff at FIU, and you have full ownership of any assessment or learning material that you create while you develop the micro-credential. And last but not least, and also one of our favorites at our office, is that we support and guide you through the whole process, from initiation to implementation. We'll make sure that it's accessible, that it's quality, and that it's good to go for learners to take.
So there are different ways to deliver a micro-credential, and a lot of times we think of these as skills and competencies that are not quite covered in academic courses, but can be used to enhance what you do learn in academic courses, and therefore they can be embedded. And that would be the curricular delivery. So those are embedded into academic courses. They can be either fully online, FIU online courses, or they can be hybrid, or they can be face-to-face classes along with a shell, a Canvas shell that supports that course. So the micro-credential content should flow with the course material. It shouldn't be something that really has nothing to do with the course itself. The content should flow easily from the subject of the class and possibly a topic from the micro-credential, moving on to a new topic of the class and bringing in the micro-credential again. Or it can be used to supplement what's being learned in the class. So if IDs are assigned to the same course, let's say from FIU Online and from the Office of Micro-Credentials, we'll work together. We'll contact them. They flag it in the system, and we'll work along with them to ensure that there is good communication and alignment between the micro-credential content and the course content. The syllabus, usually a syllabus is created for the course. We will provide language to inform students that there is a micro-credential embedded in there, along with only 3 other pages that they'll put into their Canvas course. One is letting them know the micro-credential requirements, so laying out specifically what students need to do. Now, a micro-credential isn't graded on based on a total grade that they get. It's graded based on assignment, and I'll explain soon why that is. So students need to know what that minimum earning criteria is for each specific assignment or assessment for the micro-credential. So that's in there. We also give them instructions on how to claim their badge through Credly. And last, we add our survey from our office, our post-badge survey that allows learners to give feedback to our office on how that micro-credential was. We pass that along to the developer of the micro-credential, to the unit that created it, and they'll work on making improvements, adjustments as the students need. So it's a continuous process. Now, we do ensure that micro-credential content is meeting all accessibility laws. It is accessible, ADA compliant, and we do work along with the instructional designers if there are any assigned, or with the instructor, to ensure that everything that is being delivered to the students, to the learners, is going to be high quality and accessible. And then a different delivery of a micro-credential can be co-curricular. So what we mean by co-curricular is that it's delivered in its own single shell. It is not embedded into a course. These micro-credentials that are standalone, even if they are embedded in a course, a micro-credential will never show up on a student's transcript. It's not based on a total grade. The student doesn't earn a final grade, so it doesn't affect their GPA. But these are, they will receive a digital badge, and these are skills and competencies that they're learning in order to enhance their value toward what employers see, to add value to the degree that they earn. And so students have the option of taking these co-curricular micro-credentials in order to supplement their academic learning. And this can help them in their academic life. This can also help them in their career trajectory later on. They can talk about it in their applications to graduate school, in their personal statements. And basically what we want them to come out of it with is an understanding of what the skill and competency is that they actually acquired and how to speak about it. So we forgot to mention before, but every single micro-credential must have a reflective assignment at the end. And that is to aid students in being able to speak about what they've learned, how they'll apply it in the future and now as well. So those are co-curricular micro-credentials. And then we have with us here the QEP team. I was informed. The Quality Enhancement Plan was created in FIU as a 5-year plan. And the plan was, this quality enhancement plan specifically is to increase students' skills for the 21st century. So they did research and found that there are 3 specific micro-credentials or topics that they built micro-credentials for to master that strategic plan. And that was AI, which we've been talking about all day. So students do have the option to take a micro-credential in artificial intelligence. We have emotional intelligence, which is something that all of us, can learn from, and data, communicating and thinking with data. So those are 3 very important skills for our students, and those are already created as micro-credentials through the QEP team. And those can be delivered in either a curricular or co-curricular manner. So that's an example of a micro-credential that's delivered in both methods.
Alrighty, so we'll talk a little bit now about the process in developing a micro-credential. So the first step is to complete an intake form, which you can find on our website. Once we do get the intake form, we review it, and we reach out to you for a formal consultation. During the formal consultation, we'll meet you, you'll share your vision for the micro-credential, we'll talk about our policies, our requirements, our process, alignment, etc. We'll also give you access to our resource portal. So everybody that has gone through a consultation at our office has access to our resource portal. So essentially, everything we share in that consultation, it's in greater detail in the resource portal, and they can browse at it during any time throughout the development of the micro-credential. And we also talk about our proposal and assessment form. That's a process that takes the longest because you're really putting the idea in paper. So the title, the demand, the description, the student learning outcomes, etc. So once those forms are approved and signed by the Office of Micro-Credentials Leadership and the faculty and staff leadership, then you'll officially have a micro-credential then, and that's when you can begin marketing the micro-credential. Once those forms are signed, sealed, and delivered, then we go into the logistics part of it, right? So we open a shell, whether it's on FIU Develop or Academic Canvas, depending on your audience. We set a start and end date, right? We process the enrollment for you, and we install AutoWord. So Credly and Academic Canvas, they talk to one another. So once the student has completed all the assignments, it's been graded, and they've met the earning minimum criteria for each required assignment, they'll get an email notification letting them know, like, hey, you received this badge. And they can update, create a profile on Credly if they haven't done so already, or if they do, they can just accept it, and it will appear in their dashboard on Credly. Then Gali can talk a little bit more about the alignment piece.
So during consultation, that is, the first time that we meet you and we discuss all of our process and our policies. We do, inform our the potential developers of micro-credentials that of our process in development as well. And part of that process is to submit the assessment form. That's the second part of the proposal, which is essentially an alignment form. And if any of you have created a course through FIU Online, you might have had to fill out an alignment form where you lay out your course objectives. So in our case, we call them student learning outcomes, essentially course objectives. What are the skills and competencies that you want to cover in your course? Next, we ask the instructor or the developer of the micro-credential to submit the assignments and assessments that will be used to assess students' mastery, learners' mastery of the student learning outcomes. So a lot of times when developing a course, that comes last. In our case, in micro-credentials, we ask for those assessments up front. We also ask for a transparent evaluation of learners' work. Therefore, all assignments have to be accompanied with guidelines and rubrics so that the learners will know exactly what is expected of them. And a minimum earning criteria is also laid out specifically for the learner to know what they need in order to earn that micro-credential. That is built as a rule in Credly, which is our badging platform, which Beatriz mentioned before. And that notifies the system to award the learner the badge as soon as they earn that minimum earning criteria. So that alignment piece, that part that ensures that the course content, the assessments, the rubrics, everything aligns with those student learning outcomes, that's done in the forefront. That's done in the proposal, application part of the micro-credential, and that's done we're the first people to see it. Beatriz mostly covers the policy area, and I will look over every single assessment form that comes through. And we are looking to ensure quality from the start. A lot of feedback is given. We use Power Apps. The application is sent back and forth with feedback until we get it right. So at that point, once those are signed by Dr. Behar, by Dr. Cram, by the leadership of the developers area, high quality is already achieved at that point. Now, we ensure accessibility as well once we're developing in Canvas. All videos, audio, all of that needs to be accessible to a variety of learners. We encourage transparency, we encourage engagement. All of that is really covered in the consultation, so nothing is really a surprise. And as Beatriz mentioned before, we built a very robust resource portal for anyone that is interested to see more about micro-credentials. To learn more from that, we have guides on how to write measurable and specific student learning outcomes so that students really know the why. I know earlier today someone talked about that. Sometimes people need to know why they are doing what they are doing, and those student learning outcomes are really there to guide that student on what is going to be covered in the micro-credential. And so we do have a process for development, and we have half of our instructional design team here today, and they are so wonderful. They take on a lot of projects between them, and they are assigned to guide and support the unit that's developing the micro-credential throughout that Canvas process. So they're there to support them. They'll provide a timeline for development. They collect all the course materials. They'll go through everything to ensure accessibility again. They'll work with the subject matter experts to ensure that everything is done correctly, and in high value. And they also apply a template that we pre-created to the course shell. So it's not that the instructors or the developers are left to just decide what to do with the micro-credential and how to just present it to students, but really our template is there to guide the instructor, the developer, through that process as well. Our micro-credential quality assurance process it's heavy. We want to give our students the most valuable, the most high-level knowledge that they can possibly gain. Our university's name is on every single digital badge. We want to make sure that those students aren't just saying, I have this skill, but really can come out and show it. So, as I mentioned before, the quality assurance process starts from the very beginning, where we are looking at student learning outcomes. We're giving feedback on them. We're looking at assessments. We're giving feedback on those as well. On rubrics, every single rubric is looked at with a microscope, but only to ensure, and we're there to guide. We're not leaving you to your own, but we're really there to guide and support through the entire process. So the instructor will take a look at the final product and say, this looks good, or we need a tweak here and there. Then it moves to the instructional designers. The instructional designers are actually using a checklist that is guided by the standards of Quality Matters. Quality Matters is a certifying board for fully online courses. We do not submit these to Quality Matters or the Panther High Quality to certify for high quality, but we are using their standards. We're basing our own evaluation on those standards. And we lay those out very clearly from the start, so it's a transparent process. So the instructional design consultants will look through this checklist and ensure that all standards are met. It passes to Beatriz and I to take a look as well, and then to our leadership. So as I mentioned, it's a very lengthy process, but we work quickly because by the time we look at it, really it's been looked at several times already.
Awesome. So a little bit about steps after you launch, right? You have the micro-credential, it's been launched, students are taking it. So we really encourage faculty and staff to let their students know to share their micro-credential, whether it's on social media, when they're in an interview, talking to employers, let them know that you can market yourself. And these skills, you just got this badge. Share it with people so they know you actually have these skills that makes you ready for the workforce. We also have that post-badge survey that I know we talked a little bit earlier about, so we really encourage students, it's not mandatory, but we encourage students to take this post-badge survey where it helps us collect data of what works, what didn't, and what could be better improved for the next iteration. We review that data, and we also send that over to the faculty and staff for review, which is part of our data collection process. And of course, we always want you all to continue to expand and identify what other skill gaps are there so we can ensure that every learner is ready for that 21st century workforce. It's going to give me a minute. All right, this is one of my favorite parts. We're almost towards the end of our presentation. So this is our 2.0, our very innovative stage, right? So we have our Career Ready Micro Certificate. So the goal remains the same, right? To ensure that every learner is ready for the 21st century workforce skills. So the Micro Certificate essentially shows employers that not only are students academically prepared, but they're also career ready through a series of micro-credentials that support the curriculum, right? So the micro-credential is based on 8 career-ready competencies that we got from the National Association of Colleges and Employers. I won't read through them because you can see them here on the screen, but essentially the way that it works is that as long as you are an FIU active student, you have until you graduate to earn this micro-certificate. And the way it works is you need 1 micro-credential to satisfy each of these categories. So essentially, you need 8 micro-credentials and you obtain this micro-certificate. So not only are you getting a graduate degree from FIU, you're also getting this micro-certificate that shows employers I'm academically prepared, but I'm also career ready as well. And we'll take some Q&A now. I'll leave you with our QR code of our website. Our website has information about our team, our office. It has our micro-credential catalog, so you can see all the badges that have been developed and students have already taken as well.
I forgot to mention one thing.
Yeah.
It's not just for students. There are micro-credentials also created for professional development for our faculty and staff. Please check out our website for a list of those, and also for continuing education. So we do work with external partners to create micro-credentials, or internal, to create for the external community as well. So questions now.
Awesome. Thank you. So then any questions? No? Okay.
How many of you have taken a micro-credential?
Oh, I think he has a question right here.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So as long as it stays in-house, so for FIU active students, no, everything is completely free for them. And even for the ones developing, it's completely free as long as it stays in-house. So for faculty and staff taking a micro-credential, it is also free. There's only fees associated when you want to create a micro-credential that's for the external community.
And then you can charge them too.
You can charge as well.
For
the external community only. Everything else is free for in-house.
How many have taken a micro-credential here or elsewhere?
Oh.
Raise them loud and proud.
Awesome.
Cool. And how many have developed a micro-credential?
Developed.
QEPT. Yay. Awesome.
Awesome. All right, any other questions?
I have
Okay, go ahead.
Has it been considered the idea of using a micro-credential as part of the first year experience, kind of helping? Because I know that there are badges created in other colleges and universities, for example, on how to take courses online, net etiquette, how to work around Zoom and be present and dressed and not on pajamas. And it has been done in other places. Has it been considered by maybe the faculty senate or to create a micro-credential within the first-year experience?
There's actually not one embedded in the first-year experience course, but CTD, our Career and Talent Development Office, has developed the Panther Career Ready module based in response to one of the Florida laws that students need to learn how to make a LinkedIn profile, how to join Handshake, which is our career and talent development portal for those kind of things.
Yeah, that would be like the only one, that, like right now, as of the
Right.
moment, that hasn't launched.
That is the only one, but I feel that if someone wanted maybe to embed like emotional intelligence, for example,
Right.
within one of those and had permission from the administrators, these people, perhaps that could be a good idea, or they could take it alongside it, right? If they reach out to a professor, they can say, you know, there is one on this topic that's co-curricular.
Yeah, I'm thinking more in the sense of like Rory North Star. So Rory North Star, kind of creating what is the culture and the ethics, the ethos of FIU.
Like how to navigate FIU, essentially.
Not so much as navigate, because that's being done by the
values
experience,
and
the values and the principles.
Yeah, so I don't
This
think at the moment we have a micro-credential that embodies that. But you're more than welcome to submit an intake form, reach out to us.
Yes,
and
Dr.
we
Steiner.
can make it happen.
That's an idea for the faculty senate to take it there.
Faculty and Senate is not involved in micro-credentials, just want to make that
No,
again.
but it is a
no
great
need for
idea
them.
because it's definitely a competency that can be covered, values and ethics and education,
Yes.
in AI, and
Yes.
in those kind of topics. And we really encourage collaboration amongst different departments. So if that is something that is covered, that is an important topic in different areas, to collaborate with different subject matter experts on that topic and come up with a micro-credential on ethics or values at FIU, I think that would be amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? No? All right. Well, thank you all so much for being here, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you all.
That was a great presentation. Thank you, Gali, Beatriz, and Eliana for those exciting updates about badging for success at FIU.